Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 31st episode of the Orcocast. With me today, my good friend and co host, Lord Val Gaming,
Hi.
and my good friend, Bum Bum, and
Hello.
co host. We are talking about two games today. We are talking about Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and we are talking about Golden Light. I'm gonna take it away with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I don't think the Call of Duty franchise does need any introduction whatsoever because
What
it's
Call of Duty?
oh, you have been living under a rock, I guess, in the last decade. I would say it doesn't have the status it had once anymore, but I would totally say it still is very relevant in today's gaming world. It's a bit like your Michael Bay movie that releases every year in cinema. It's a bit like the NFL finale. You just know it's going to happen and you just know it's kinda and everyone still goes for it. Mainly, what I personally want to talk about is the campaign because that's actually what I've played the most so far. I played a couple of rounds in the multiplayer. I played zombies quite a bit, and that's about it. So I can say something about those as well, but it will rather be brief. Main meat is going to be the campaign. So, what is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War? Other than Black Ops 2 and 3, Cold War is a direct continuation of the Black Ops 1 game in terms of story. I will say I have not played the Black Ops game in quite some time, so memory might be hazy. What I did is I finished the campaign of Cold War. First off, what I want to say is I love the scenario. The Cold War is one of the most interesting times, especially when it comes to espionage and stuff like that. Just everything was just rampant and ran wild. I would have wanted the game to go that route as well. More covert ops, more sneaking, more, yeah, just espionage type of stuff. Obviously, we got more of a Michael Bay movie, so. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm not knocking the game. It didn't drag its feet for too long. I will say that the campaign is very short. In this case, it's not a bad thing, but let's say the last quarter of the game is kind of shit. The main reason why is because after you finish a certain mission, it's the mission in Cuba, you feel like that the developers until then the campaign is actually fine. You even got like 2 or 3 side missions to do, which you can do from some kind of clue board. I think the board is rather pointless to me personally, or it feels pointless. But yeah, let's just concentrate on the last quarter for a bit. It's just one mission on repeat for like 3 times, and then you get to make a decision. I will talk spoilers later about that decision. And then you get a kind of very short, brief end mission. And you really notice how the developers either ran out of time or of funds or of both.
I'll say both.
I don't know how long that has been in development for 2 years. That's kinda sad because the campaign wasn't that long anyways. Also, some of the things are recycled, like at the start when you go and follow one of the leads you have. You're going to chase a plane with your car. I think that was also in Black Ops. Same scenario.
Yeah, I think
So
so. Then in Black Ops 2, I think. Not sure.
I mean, it's like it's kind of the same anyways all the time, and it felt like they recycled a lot of things from not just Black Ops but Call of Duty games. And I will talk spoilers now for a bit. So if you haven't finished the campaign and you're interested in the story, I will put up a timestamp and you just jump there, and then we can give our thoughts and spoiler free talk. So what essentially happens is after the mission in Cuba, you find out that your main character that you create at the start of the game is somebody who was mind controlled the entire time. And they found your character during the plane mission where you chase the plane with the car. You were with the one informant of the bad guy, and that guy shot you and somebody pulled you out of the car and you were then used mind controlled by the CIA. The last mission is essentially they try to force a memory into you. And so you basically just play this mission over and over again. They tell you what to do. I don't know if this mission is shorter. If you adhere to what they tell you to do, I didn't adhere to it because, no, I will not do what you tell me. Never. It dragged on for very long. It was very exhausting to play this mission because you go through the hoops like 3-4 times. After that, you get to make a choice, and this is actually where the game completely broke down for me. The entire thing is, or it comes down to choosing either to side with the bad, in quotations, bad guy Perseus, or with the CIA, Adler, Mason, and Woods. I sided with Perseus in the first ending. I don't know how the CIA ending goes, but if you side with Perseus, and this is actually something I give the developers a lot of props for, you can actually kill their heroes of the Call of Duty franchise, Mason and Woods, in a firefight. They get a massive prop from me for that. There is a last dialogue between you and Adler. And in this dialogue, I've always conveyed myself as somebody who doesn't want to cooperate with them. Because you can give him basically the finger. The entire dialogue. Yeah, you can do that. What I find fascinating about this is he straight up believes you when you lie to his face. At the end, you make a choice. Basically, you tell them where Perseus is, or you don't tell them where Perseus is and lie to them. And it doesn't matter which option you choose, he will believe you. And that is the exact moment where the game breaks down for me completely. And I already did during the MK Ultra segment where they try to force this Vietnam memory into you. I already was uncooperative by not doing what the guy told me to do. If he said you were going right, I went left, and so on and so forth. And he still, after me being all this uncooperative with him, just straight up buys the lie I fed him. He just straight up buys it. He's like, yeah, you did the right thing. Come on, yeah, let's go. Let's get Perseus. This is stupid.
Yeah, it sounds like that's more of a writing problem because maybe they just realize that they essentially have written themselves into a hole because they would have to take into account so many different choices and actually like different branches because then essentially it would be like, oh, they've been acting this way and they've been, and then you choose to lie. So obviously the character should know you're lying, but at the same time, then they would be like, oh, he's been cooperating, but then he lies in the end, so he's probably not lying. And then you go through obviously to the Russian where the ending where the Russia wins. So yeah, it was an odd choice to see really because I essentially just watched the very beginning of the game and the very ending of the game, and yeah, like at first I was like, that's kind of cool, but at the same time, it feels half-assed. They could have done so much more with it, and they essentially just did it just to say they did it with no real substance to it.
And also, like, if you make a choice, it doesn't matter really. I guess there are two endings, or multiple endings. I haven't experienced the other ending. The I don't know if I want to call it the good ending. Just feels all like half-hearted and not really all that thought through. I know that in the credits, David Goyer actually wrote the script. Not that he's like a really great script writer.
I mean, he did Suicide Squad, right?
I don't know if he did Suicide Squad, but he did some.
I think he did.
Yeah, I think
not
he
sure, though.
did Suicide Squad.
If he did Suicide Squad, well then he did some. I'm looking at his writing stuff. He did actually do some cool stuff. He wrote Blade, which is a great movie. He wrote Batman Begins in part. He wrote a story outline for The Dark Knight. And he didn't do Suicide Squad, but he did Steel and the amazing Superman, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and the amazing Terminator Dark Fate. I'm being highly ironic with the last two, obviously.
Well, I think now he wishes he did Suicide Squad really instead of those two.
Somebody else did Suicide Squad. I don't remember who it was. He wrote actually the script for this game, I guess. And I feel like that it has this Hollywood pomp to it, but never really reaches it, because
Yeah.
it's written like a movie. Actually, it's written like a Hollywood movie. It makes a huge amount of sense if you look at it from that perspective, but it doesn't work for a video game in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, even when you talk about his credits, mostly it's outlines or storylines. And I think where the game really falls down is the execution of the dialogue and what essentially carries the core of the story.
Yeah.
Like the outline itself is essentially being unknowingly double crossing, you know, your original side, essentially where your character gets mind controlled to be on the side of the CIA. That's not a bad storyline. The problem is with the actual execution. I think that's where it fails. Yeah, I think especially the dialogue was super grating.
Also, they gave the Eastern German Army MP5s, and I will never shut up about that.
I saw that rant. Yeah,
My opinion on the Call of Duty story. We're talking about story here, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, the story, in my opinion, is like they're promoting this story as such a big thing. I think about it, it's like, oh, you have multiple choices and you can do this, and there is different endings and stuff like that. It's like there is multiple other games that are already doing that and a lot better in multiple different ways. And also, like you said, they're trying to be like so cinematic, but then it doesn't have any like exactly what you said. It doesn't have really any impact into the game, whatever you say. It's just kind of like bland. And I mean, everyone was really excited about the multiple choices and the multiple endings, and everyone was like, I remember IGN gave it a really good review actually because of the multiple endings, and I was watching it and I was like, there's a million other games that do exactly the same thing, and they are much better done. It's like because Call of Duty has done that for the first time, not even properly, doesn't mean that it's actually, it deserves so much praise when, I see so many other games doing exactly the same thing, with different choices depending on the choice will change the course of the story. So I don't know. To be honest with you, like it doesn't feel like it changes. I mean, the only thing that changes in the end is like obviously there's different endings, and that's about it. I think honestly, the Call of Duty, since I would say, I don't know, the Call of Duty Black Ops, I really like the story. Black Ops 2 maybe, and the Modern Warfare at the start. But since then, it's like everything has gone downhill. Nothing makes sense anymore.
I don't think this is as bad as Call of Duty Ghosts, which
Yeah,
was
obviously.
absolutely abhorrent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Ghosts, the only redeeming quality of Ghosts was the dog Ridley, and still they didn't even have the balls to kill the dog at one point, where they're like, "Oh no, Ridley," and it's like, "Psych, guys, he's still alive."
That's what I'm saying. Like everyone was like raving about the games, like how good the game is, and multiple in these multiple stories. And I was like, yeah, but it's like, everyone is doing that now. Not everyone, but there's other games that do that and they do it properly. They do it how it should be done, though.
If I wanted to play essentially a shooter with expansive story and choices that matter, I'd play
Mhm.
Deus Ex. I'd play the original Deus Ex, or I'd play Human Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't play Call of Duty. Even then, like when you talk about reviews, Call of Duty games tend to get good reviews because people get, yes, they play the story, but in the end, people just get sucked into the comfortable zone that is
Mm-hmm.
the Call of Duty multiplayer, and the story is just like a wake memory, and it's like, oh, this was kind of neat, and that's it. I don't think like if you ask any of the people that really played the story, you ask them about it, like who's your favorite character, what's your favorite line, or what really does, like, how does the story work? They wouldn't
Yeah.
remember anything.
But it's that's the only down that I see. Everyone was like so happy to see different endings and everything. It's like, to be honest with you, it's like still Call of Duty. I would much rather. I mean, I don't mind it as long as the story is good to have a linear start, mid, and end, and that's it. Not that many choices. I think it's just the whole thing with Cyberpunk coming out with multiple choices. They tried maybe to do something similar because we've been looking at Cyberpunk for years now. In my opinion, it's not like if they have invested so much on the story, I'm not surprised that some of them, one of them looked at Cyberpunk and said, "Oh, we want to do that. We want to make Call of Duty They want to everyone to speak about Call of Duty like they speak about that game. You know what I mean? With the multiple choices and everything changing. So I don't consider like the thing with Cyberpunk is like kind of like an RPG, isn't it?
Yeah, Cyberpunk is a RPG.
It changes everything, and then you have your choices, and then it's just I don't conceive Call of Duty as an RPG. So it doesn't, in my eyes, doesn't make much sense to have that and to have that much, put that much energy into the story. When at the end of the day, how long is the story on Call of Duty? I would say about 8 hours,
Well, I would
Yeah.
say it's even shorter.
even shorter.
At least in Cold War. I think 6 hours for me to finish it.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think most of the
Yeah.
more
I
recent
think-
Call of Duties were like 6 hours, some 5, even 4.
And
Yeah.
in Cold War, if you make haste, you can probably finish it in 4 to 5 or even 3 hours. The campaign is really not long.
Yeah.
I don't mind short games, but in this case,
Like the meat and potatoes of Call of Duty is multiplayer. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like Call of Duty is all about multiplayer, and this is the replayability of the game. This is what the game offers. I think they sometimes I really believe that they invest a little bit too much on the story because they think it's gonna be great. People play the story once. The story might be good, might be bad, but it's not gonna define the game. The game is gonna be defined by the multiplayer. It's gonna be defined by the everything, the input lag and blah blah and whatnot. And at the end of the day, it's what's going to define if the game is gonna be played or not in the long run. I don't see. I mean, there is people that like the story. I'm
Yeah,
not one of them though. I'm not. If I want a good story, I don't play Call of Duty. I go and play any
I
other game
mean-
of Call of Duty.
I mean, I understand that point, but on the other hand, it wouldn't really hurt of having a good story.
Yeah.
I
Obviously,
mean,
I'm not.
why not make also a good campaign? And I'm just not thoroughly disappointed. I didn't even have any expectations. I'm like, whatever. It's just, I mean, they could have done more with it, I guess, but like we already said, they probably just ran out of money and time. And Activision was like, this is your deadline. Whatever you have at this point will be in the game. So
I mean, they have plenty of time, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah,
how long do they have? They had 3 years to make it.
Yeah,
believe.
I think the problem for especially Activision on that side is also they don't see the return on investment into the single player campaign. There is no season pass for the single player campaign, though you get a season pass for the multiplayer. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's the thing for them. I think they would, if they could sell you another season pass just for the story, yeah, they might have put more effort into it. But as it is now, I don't think so.
I agree with you as well, but like I said, I just think, and to be a more positive guy on this podcast, I think the Call of Duty franchise actually has potential to tell not like great impactful stories, but entertaining stories. The foundation is there. They're just like jumping through all the wars and everything anyways. So just give us a compelling story or entertaining story, even. It's all I'm asking, and you don't have to be fancy schmancy with multiple endings or whatever. Just tell us a straight, entertaining story. The foundation is there. There is even some segments in this game where some really small brilliance shines through. My favorite segment in the game is the raid on the Lubyanka, where you start out playing the Russian spy Belikov, where you can go a little bit around and do a little bit of stuff like framing somebody else for you or for being a spy like that, and then letting the Americans into the Lubyanka, and you take control from your character you created at the start from there. That's cool stuff, you know? It is there. I don't expect all that much from Call of Duty, but this is like this is actually a really, for what they do, well-designed mission. It has like a starting point, which ramps up slightly the entire time, and then it goes completely haywire when you go down in the bunker and just shoot everything in the Lubyanka. By the way, the Lubyanka is a building in Moscow where the KGB was located.
That sounds straight up like a mission from Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Yes, and it's so much fun. It was really fun. This is what frustrates me about this so much. They can do it. They show they can do it. It's there. It's really there. And they don't capitalize on it. And that's the frustrating part. And that's why I also say the ending is so frustrating, because it comes really abrupt and out of nowhere, and it basically feels really lackluster compared to what came before. You also, in another mission where you play Mason and Woods, you suddenly find yourself on a Spetsnaz training ground, and just all hell breaks loose. That this is some cool stuff, and then the ending compared to that is like really just drops the ball. And I just wish they would make a fast-paced, high-octane action game without any fat whatsoever, because I know they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, even the main plot point essentially feels like a ripoff of their own work in Black Ops 1, which essentially ends as well, where you break out of this broken mind state to get a sequence of numbers. Here you just find out, oh, I'm actually originally a Russian spy.
Yeah, I guess I'm too idealistic, but for me it's like I can see that they can do cool stuff with it. And the frustrating part is just they don't do it. That's my final say on the campaign. And then we can go a little bit into the multiplayer. Anybody wants to add anything?
No, there's the,
No, I'm
just the
good.
story. Everyone hyped it up a little bit. In my opinion, it wasn't. There is not that much to it to be so hyped up. In my opinion.
Okay, let's go to the multiplayer. So, multiplayer. I start with zombies because that's a game that I actually enjoy a lot. It's fun. It's co-op shooting against waves of zombies. What's not to like? It's a bit repetitive. You can play it for a round or two with friends and then just lay it down and maybe do it a week later again. It's not something I would play like on a continuous basis over and over again. There is something missing, some excitement missing there for it to work that way. For what it is, I enjoy it. The one thing that really puts me off is that it is horribly up. The campaign ran very well for me, even on higher graphic settings. The zombie mode runs really poorly for some reason. When I play it on stream, it chucks down to single digit frames, and that's just not fun.
Yeah, which is weird because even the tech behind the game isn't super advanced, so it shouldn't do that. But at the
They
same time, thinking back, even like Black Ops, the Call of Duty games I've played, they never ran well until about a couple of months in on PC for some reason.
The one thing also is they still use the Quake 3 engine. It's still in essence the Quake 3 engine, and this thing runs really bad. And that's like something I don't know. It should run better. Optimization should be more of a priority at this point for this game, because if you wanna slay zombies, the last thing you wanna worry about is if your frame rate keeps up.
Yeah, and especially now in the age of streaming and when streaming is so popular,
Hmm.
not everyone has a super strong PC if they want to stream. And if turning on your stream, essentially the broadcasting program and recording
Mhm.
program is gonna bog down your pipeline so much, and then the game's gonna chuck, why would I even bother then covering the game?
It's not just that. The issue is that I don't even have that bad of a rig also. That's another point. Why do I have to crank this down to almost low settings so it even runs? The broadcasting software and everything doesn't even take all that much resources.
Yeah. No, I'm like I think that's been a
Mm.
problem with the franchise for ages now, and it's not good. They need to solve it like right away, not a couple months down the line where they find, oh, there's been this like thing in the background. There's been for some reason so badly optimized that it consumed about 60% of your resources. That's a problem. Like, I don't think they put the optimization for PC, at least for PC version, up on a pedestal where it should be, given there's
Exactly.
such a variety in hardware people have that they're gonna put their game on.
Because Call of Duty will be played across multiple PC iterations, systems, and everything. I get that it is a little bit harder to optimize for PC because literally PC has no generations, unlike consoles where you just have like, okay, we have this generation and this generation, and we are going to focus on this generation, but make sure it's also run for this generation. PC is just ever evolving.
But then again, like, I was watching, even someone was streaming a PS5 version, and it was titled, I think it was like full HD 60 FPS. And I was watching, I was like, yo boy, that's not 60 FPS. It doesn't run 60 FPS even on consoles properly,
Damn
like
it.
in most cases.
I mean, out of all the excuse me, out of all the kind of like shooter games on console, might be Call of Duty still is one of the best games, if you get what I mean, FPS wise. I mean,
Yeah.
they're running with an ancient engine though, which
There, I mean, they're
cannot.
still using
I mean,
like Bones of Quake 3, which is what,
yeah,
2001 or 2002?
yeah, they're playing it safe.
Playing it
Playing it
safe is
safe.
an understatement. Wow.
Yeah, they like this works.
Again,
If it ain't broken, why fix it?
they
That's
they
how it goes.
run on an engine that is almost 2 decades old at this point.
Yeah, I know. But they just they're playing it safe.
Yeah,
Let's be honest, they're playing it
some-
safe.
At some point, I just expect them to find out about LickTech engine.
Oh God, no! Please, no, no,
We gotta
no.
try that, guys. Have you
Yeah.
seen what that engine can do?
Yeah, let's. Hey, no, way better. Let's go back to the build engine where the games were just held together by, I don't know, rubber bands and
Or
some
software.
gum.
I mean, I believe it's still better than Destiny Engine, and Destiny Engine, how they call it, is the spaghetti coding. They fix
thought-
one thing, they break 20.
Oh, they're running Destiny on their own engine.
Yeah, I think they got their own engine, and they call it the spaghetti
Oh,
coding.
yeah.
So it's just literally everything they fix one thing, they break 20. That's typical on Destiny.
That sounds like bad programming.
Yeah, well, that, probably it's not bad programming. Probably is kind of ancient as well, because I think that
Yeah.
that's brought from the Halo days. Probably they're playing it safe, in my opinion. They're playing it very safe, and because what they're trying to do is Call of Duty is being stable. Call of Duty works well on that engine. It's like they have the solid base already, so they don't really have to work for it. If I'm honest with you, like, they just have to adjust a few things here and there. That's about it. That's the end of it. That's what Call of Duty does year after year. It's like pick up something they already have. They already have the base. They already have the engine. They already have the base. I mean, it's both Treyarch and which one is the other one?
Raven.
Yeah, Raven are the only ones that are doing the games now, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they're
I
doing
think
it in a
Yeah.
2-year cycle. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Treyarch is the only one that had a 3-year cycle because it was another company which is not longer with Activision, I
That
believe.
was Infinity Ward.
Infinity Ward, exactly. Going on now, they have a 2-year cycle. Even though they have the 2-year cycle, they're just saying, we have this, which is already solid. People keep playing it because there's still millions of players on Call of
Yeah,
Duty. Let's be
The
honest.
problem with
People are
that,
still
though,
playing it.
is people don't buy the game because it's like, oh, I want to play that. They buy it because it's Call of Duty, and they know, like, people will buy that just on brand recognition. And like, the main issue with using something that has such an old backbone, which is
Mhm.
like essentially the engine is not direct like Quake 3 engine, but it's still based on the technology. Problem is it's holding them back. Like, at some point they will realize, oh, we can't do that unless we massively rework that engine. That's why people use always the newest iteration of Unreal Engine, because that engine, say what you will, like the engine is so modular that it's on the level of Unity engine, like what you can do with the thing.
Yeah.
And even better. An extremely powerful engine that can do so many things. And it's not bogged down to do a single thing, like whatever, like Treyarch or Raven wanted to do something else than shooter on that engine.
Yeah.
They would run into problems. Just like what like happened when Star Citizen came into being, and they were like, oh, we're gonna use the Cry engine,
Yeah.
and then realized, okay, that engine is just for shooters and nothing else, and we somehow need to make it into a space game. So what we do, and they essentially had to rework the entire engine, and I'm expecting in near future I don't think it's gonna be before. I think it's gonna be well before this generation ends. Then they realize, oh, we have to do something about this engine tech. It feels like there's a group of Adeptus Mechanicus deep in Activision and
Mhm.
Treyarch smoking incense all over an old computer that's running that engine, hoping that it's gonna work again.
And the other thing is, I know that's kind of again taking it to an extreme, but on one hand, what Bam Bam says rings true, that it holds them back on so many levels because they cannot do all that much with it. I honestly have a lot of respect for the R&D department because they have to upgrade this engine every year. And I can only imagine how much of a nightmare it is to do that.
Yeah, because
Only,
you're limited on like to a certain language that you can use, and then you have to translate everything you want to do into that language.
yeah, hoping it doesn't break. And it probably breaks a lot. This is probably also where the optimization issues come from, but it should be still better optimized because it's this old of an engine.
Yeah, I think the problem is there, and that's going like past what I know about engines and the pipelines they use. But I
Yeah.
think it also might be a core issue with the engine on how it handles streaming memory.
Yeah, that could. I mean, there could be so much.
Yeah, there's millions of issues. I mean, it's all like an offline of code in the midst of thousands of lines can cause a great issue just because it's just one simple
Yeah,
off.
yeah. But like I said, props to Activision's R&D department who handle that engine. You guys do the Lord's work, really you do. And somebody should just say that. Despite me knocking you for not optimizing it properly, I can only imagine how much of a nightmare it is to work with that thing.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, I really believe it's just like the Adeptus Mechanicus. It's a couple of guys.
It's probably just like that. There's like 5 guys in one office that are the only ones left, the leftovers from id Software, who have like this one knowledge how the Quake 3 engine works, and they are just tasked with updating it constantly.
Even in death, I serve the Omnissiah.
Yeah, exactly. They're like untouchable, you know? Activision is like, whatever you do not go into these offices ever. And whatever these guys do, you do not talk to them ever.
Yeah, they
Love
already
it.
have like replaced limbs with bionic arms and stuff.
Savage. Come on, guys. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, my opinion on multiplayer is good. Multiplayer. And it's not. I'm not saying it's good. I mean, let me rephrase that. It's not good.
It's fast food of multiplayer shooters.
Exactly
It's hard to hate.
because it's what we played for so long, and I'm used to it.
Like as much as I don't like the business model and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a cheeky game of Call of Duty here and there. Why not?
I saw this ages ago. I can't remember when it was. I saw it ages ago, and it's got stuck in my head, and I still remember this. And I'm telling you probably about 10 years ago that I saw this on an interview. So what happens is this gentleman that was on an interview and everything about gaming and stuff like that, and they were actually talking about the shooting, like the shooters, like what shooters do people play, and that was the era of, like, you remember the Halo era. That was when Halo was on the rise. But then you have the Battlefield. You have which one is the other one? You had Battlefield. You had Call of Duty. You had Halo.
There
There
was
were like
Quake.
the three. Quake as well, yeah. But like the main ones on PC, on console gaming were those were the big three. Medal of Honor as well.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
Medal
name
of
I was
Honor.
looking for. It was Medal of Honor, Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Halo. So
Halo.
they were like going head to head, everyone. So they were fighting for the FPS fans and on consoles. And there was this guy that just went on to an interview, and they said, why do you play Call of Duty? And he said, I play Call of Duty because when I finish work, I get home, and it's like I get with my friends. I tune in. I play Call of Duty. I switch it on. I play Call of Duty for like an hour and switch it off, and that's it. I get in. I get 6, 7, 8 games. Have fun with it. Switch it off. I'm out. Like
Yeah.
there is nothing I have to work for. There's nothing I have to grind or anything. It's just I turn it on. I know how it plays because I played for so long. I play right away. I know how everything feels. Turn it off and play again tomorrow or play again next week. It's the feeling of Call of Duty. It gives you the feeling that you can jump in, you can play the game. You already know how to play the game, whether you play 10 years ago or you play it today. You know how to play the game right away.
Yeah. I think that's what still keeps the Call of Duty in top charts when it comes to multiplayer games, just because it's essentially zero commitment. Like
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
come in, play whatever. It's not like high commitment shooters like say Arma. Arma multiplayer is great. It's some of the best like multiplayer play,
Mhm.
but you need to spend a couple of hours just learning the game, how everything works, and then once you are like, yo, I want to try these vehicles, like I want to ride a tank or I want to try flying a helicopter. That's another couple of hours where you're just trying to learn not to kill your teammates, and that's what
Yes.
like there is like an entry barricade
Mhm.
before you can start fully enjoying the game. Whereas when you get into Call of Duty, it's like, yeah, I just pop it in and I'm right in game. I don't need to learn anything. Like everything looks and acts just how I there is no confusion on like what's happening.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing to learn, so that's why it's so good. Like as I said, it's a fast food of multiplayer shooters.
Every game,
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, every game feels the same, isn't it? Feels exactly the same. The only difference that you can probably see is between the Modern Warfare series and the Black Ops series, where you can really tell there is a difference between both on playability, like the speed and pace of the game. Other than that, it's just the weapons. Like honestly, I saw there was this Vidoc. It came out from Treyarch, not from Treyarch on this game. They were saying, "Oh, we want the feels, the sound of the weapons. We want them to sound realistic. The feel of the weapons, we want them to be realistic." And I was looking at it, I was like, I
Right.
was looking at the interview of the guy, I was like, "Are you being serious right now? You talking about Call of Duty? Because all the weapons have felt the same, like since 10 years ago." It's like
I mean,
it's no different.
talking about realism, they couldn't even give the Eastern German army their proper weapons. No, it had to be MP5s.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. That video that I saw, it was like that the interview to it's actually the head of Treyarch. So he like honestly, I was like baffled about like what he was saying, and they were showing like real weapons and everything, like them putting the
And
sound.
this is just marketing. They are just talking out of their behinds.
Yeah, it's like honestly, it was a little bit, in my opinion, was a little bit silly what they were talking about, and
I've shot real guns, and I can tell you one. A pistol doesn't handle like in Call of Duty.
no,
I
no,
don't think
no.
any weapon really handles like it does in Call of Duty.
I mean, I just shot pistols, so like 9 millimeters to be exact, so I can tell that this is not correct.
Yeah, like
Um,
that's exactly what I was saying. It's got they came out saying, this is what's gonna happen. This is the feeling of the weapons is super realistic and it's super. And I was looking at it like, you are lying to our faces. Like you are bluntly lying, because the feeling of the weapons is the same feeling. We've all played it. It's like, come on, man.
if you play the weapons as is, the handling of Tarkov is fairly realistic without any attachments. Because if you make weapon attachments, you create lasers in that game.
Yeah.
So this is where it breaks down. In terms of weapon handling, Call of Duty is the same. They are just lasers.
Sorry. I was just gonna say. I mean, there's a thing where in every single Call of Duty, it's like you try to shoot anything from hip, and you can't hit the broadside of a barn. But once you aim down sights, you essentially have a laser gun. That's not how like real guns work either.
I mean, obviously, that's fine with me. I might say, it's fine with me that if it handles like that, but don't make the statement of we want this game to be realistic, to feel realistic, because that's not Call of Duty. For starters, is one, it's not Call of Duty. Two, the sounds realistic. It's the same sounds as Call of Duty. Like you haven't changed nothing. You just like literally you line. The handle is gonna be the Call of Duty handle. The sound is gonna be the Call of Duty sounds, because I don't feel like any weapon sounds different than any other Call of Duty game. It's fine. It's fine for you to say, the weapons handle like on Call of Duty. Yeah, that's what I expect. That's what I want if I play Call of Duty. If I play Call of Duty, I don't want the weapon to handle like in Battlefield or I don't want the weapon to feel like how it handles on armor.
Yeah, it's like
If I play Call of Duty, I want to feel like I'm playing Call of Duty. I want the weapon to be a laser beam right off the bat, and I put attachments, and it's even more of a laser beam.
Yeah, like what I get the impression, like what you're saying about that interview, is like the developer of Ridge Racer trying to sell you their game as if it was Assetto Corsa.
Exactly. It was funny. It was funny for me to see that interview. They should not come out with those statements because it's really not true, in my opinion. If I want to play other games, we have alternatives, fortunately, like Battlefield. I still believe Battlefield is a much better game
Yeah, I
than Call of
mean,
Duty.
like multiplayer, especially on PC, you're really spoiled for choice because, like,
Yeah.
one of my favorites is Insurgency. It's a midway between a more arcade shooter and a simulator, so it's like the perfect like in between where it feels heavier, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's not armor slow. Like if I want to have just like a quick round of urban combat, Insurgency, it's a great game.
There's multiple great choices for games.
I was just gonna say that even like if you want like a Battlefield-like game on PC, there's Squad, and Squad's great.
Or I just wanted to point to Road to Hell, which has an actual World War II scenario and is like Battlefield. Or you can also go to the new game Beyond the Wire,
Oh, yeah.
which has World War One.
Yeah, I think there's Battalion 1944, I think, which was another big shooter. Then there's also I think is it Heroes and Generals, which is a free-to-play shooter.
I think yes.
Yeah, it's like a big World War II like combined assault game as well.
Cool.
And just to round out that point, so if you're a PC player, you normally do not have the problem that you don't have choices. You can, if you look into more niche. There's also Rising Storm and what else, what have you. Those games are also great. Rising Storm is really hard to get into these days, but if you have like the patience and everything, you should definitely do it. I guess your point you were making, Val, is that on consoles you do not have this kind of
That's what I was
choice.
going to say. Unfortunately, on consoles, we have the one only choice, which is you either go for Call of Duty style, then you got Battlefield on the other hand. There is not many other games that you can get like to that, to those standards. I would say, high standards. Let's call it the high standards. You got the Battle Royales, obviously, everywhere. And then you have the multiplayers, which I would say it goes one way or the other. I would love to see one way or the other, like with Battlefield and Call of Duty. I mean, Battlefield being the more quote unquote realistic on console, and then Call of Duty being the arcadey FPS on console. And then I would love to see myself see the Medal of Honor series back, because I was a big fan of Medal of Honor, and they used to stop producing them. I really don't know what happened to the games.
Oh, I
in my
can tell
opinion.
you exactly what happened to those games.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the Medal of Honor kind of like started as an arcade and then moved on to more of a simulation kind of, and it fell on the middle ground between one and the other, and it's like it went absolutely nowhere on the last Medal of Honor. Which one was it? The last one?
Was it Warfighter?
Yeah,
I actually
Warfighter.
played. Yeah, I played the heck out of that one. I really liked it, but it was like falling on the middle between one and the other. It's like Medal of Honor developers didn't know what type of game they wanted.
Yeah, I think they also got stuck because a good chunk of the original community left the game because the previous ones before that were all historical conflict and they were sort of grounded. And then Warfighter came out and it was bearded man kicking doors, and it wasn't. That was a Medal of Honor. That was essentially just another Call of Duty.
Yeah.
It lost it lost the identity it had, which is weird because that's like Call of Duty did the same thing. It started as a World War II shooter, and it became the now essentially just focused on more recent.
Yeah, it goes back and forth between old and recent. Battlefield right now is on World War II with Battlefield 5, I believe. The previous game was Battlefield 1 from the World War 1. I mean, I think Battlefield 1 was too far into the past. I mean, people want to bring back the old kind of like, the World War 1 style and feeling games, and then when you give it to them, they don't want it. And they want...
I think why Battlefield 1 failed was all the controversy behind it. It was more about the factors outside the game than the game itself. And even the game itself, like it didn't double down on the World War One setting, because I think it was really early post-release they started introducing semi-automatic and automatic weapons that weren't just like emplacement guns. It was, oh, there's a submachine gun and stuff like that that had essentially that destroyed any idea of this, of like Battlefield 1 being a strictly like a sort of accurate World War One game. Even the scenarios didn't really feel like a World War One. If I was to say introduce like a World War One aesthetic into a shooter, I'd just do like an Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard and just have you fight different like large scale battles, say against like gene stealer cults or tyranids or what have you, because there you get both. You get like the more out there sci-fi stuff, but you also, the Imperial Guard is designed around World War One, like especially German, and I think it's German and French designs. You'd
Yeah.
get that. They also use like trenches and stuff and gas to fight, so you still get that, but you also get the quality of life of having automatic weapons, and you don't
Yeah.
have to pretend that you're trying to be something that you're not.
I mean, and that's why I'm honestly hyped for Beyond the Wire, to go back to that one, because it builds itself as a realistic World War One shooter, and I really wanna play that one. I've been hovering around it like for ages now, and I'm probably gonna buy it soon. Because if there is one thing we have been lacking, it's a really realistic World War One shooter. There's probably some out there that I haven't heard of.
Yeah, I was about to say Tannenberg was essentially that before Beyond the Wire. Tannenberg is, that one's more squad based. I think
Yeah.
it's a squads of 5 where you have your squad leader, but you still get to do like all the fun stuff, like using whistle to signal charges and stuff. It's accurate as well, but I think like where Beyond the Wire wins is just the sheer production value. Like
looks
it's so much
great.
prettier and stuff. But it also has the benefit of being a more recent game. Tannenberg, I think it's almost 3 or 4 years old now.
I think it's a good point to cut it off here. Well, I wish you a good trip.
Thank you.
You will be out, I heard, so. And where can we find you? Tell us about it.
Well, you can find me on Twitch and twitch.tv/LordValGaming. And also you can find me on Twitter, LordValTwitch, and TikTok and Instagram, LordValGaming. And also if you want copyright-free music, you can find it on Spotify. Stream Jams, you search LordValGaming on any music streaming device or program.
Bam Bam, where do you sacrifice orphans to the elder gods?
Well, if you do that, I usually appear in your chat. Otherwise, I'm just usually stuck in the warp.
In which warp, though? Are you a Nurgle?
I'm just straight, Cinch.
Alright. And you can find me on twitch.tv/theorcosaurus, on Twitter, the Orcosaurus, on Instagram and YouTube, just as Orcosaurus. And that's basically it. Thank you everyone for participating in the 31st Orcocast with a just talk about Call of Duty and then branching off completely into a different direction, but it was fun. And thank you for listening, everyone. And we see us next time. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.